brought to you by Accenture Extended Reality. This is Field of View.
Hi, and welcome to Field of View. My name is Nikk from Accenture.
And my name is Daniel Kolayani from the Academy of International Extended Reality.
And this is the Field of View, where every second week we interview interesting people that are working in the extended reality industry. And we remind you that you can find our new episodes every 2 weeks on YouTube, on Google, and on Apple Podcast, and even on Spotify. And today we have a very interesting guest, a guest that is going to give us a new perspective of the market. Right, Daniel?
Yeah, well, this is what's interesting to me, kind of sitting here. And when our producer came to me and said, hey, we've got this really fantastic individual here who's going to talk about the XR market, VR and AR, when it comes to a market that we're not very familiar with. And I find it really fascinating that I can sit here in the UK, for example, and interact with even North American members and European members and have a decent idea of the market. But then when I speak to this guest that comes on this podcast today, I realize I only know the tip of the iceberg here that goes really far.
There are some statistics that are saying that the market in China, mainland China, this is the country we're going to talk about today, accounts for about 47% of the global business of extended reality. And this is an incredible opportunity for many companies, but is also a massive question mark for many. So today we have the pleasure of having with us Nikk Mitchell, that is going to guide us through his adventure in the Chinese business and the Chinese market. Hi, Nikk, how are you doing?
Hey guys, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on. My name's Nikk Mitchell, and I'm the founder and CEO of FXG, a VR company based in Hangzhou, China.
Fantastic, Nikk. Would you like to give us a little bit of an overview of what you're doing and your services that you're providing with your company?
Yeah, so we have a team of 39 people, mainly based in China, with one person in North America and somebody else in Europe, focused mainly on VR film. So we do VR camera development. Here's our old model. And we also create a lot of VR content, mainly for Chinese brands, but some international brands, with GE Healthcare being one client. And the third thing that we do has been working with international companies and Chinese companies and kind of bridging them. I'm not Chinese, but I'm based in China. And that's kind of put me in an interesting position where I got one foot in both worlds. And so it came naturally that people are looking for support and kind of figuring out this market. So we've brought a lot of content to the old Xiaomi headset. Now we work with Huawei a lot and all these other different Chinese brands, just helping them find content, and then working with international devs, helping them make some money off of China and reach this significant growing market.
And I mean, this is super interesting because for everybody in the Western world, if you talk about virtual reality, everybody thinks about Oculus or eventually HTC, Valve Index. But there are hundreds of manufacturers all around the world, and especially in China, that are producing headsets. And you're going to show us some of the prototypes and the very curious and exotic headsets that you received there at the studio today.
Yeah, definitely. I got a lot of weird things to show. I can give a strange teaser. Oh, it disappeared. Okay.
It's okay. We'll show you later.
There's plenty of time.
So
we joked before the podcast that Nikk was going to break something here, and I think it's already happened.
My team is really worried that I'm going to break things. So I had all these equipment sitting around me, and they seem to have came and cleaned it up while I wasn't looking to prevent me from breaking anything. But don't worry, I'll get some back.
Nikk, and when did you arrive to China? When did you move there?
About 15 years ago, when I was 18, going to university at the Art Institute of Vancouver, taking game design, and I hated it. And I saw a job on Craigslist one day when I was procrastinating from my homework and thought that would be funner than uni. Wasn't that serious about it, but on a whim, sent them an email. I somehow got the job, maxed out my student loan, got on a plane, and 15 years later, turns out it seemed to be the right choice.
Amazing. But you're a true citizen of the world. I mean, can you tell us a little bit of your story? You're born in Kenya, that's right.
Yeah. So I was born in Kenya. I grew up my first 5 years of my life there and in Zaire. At the time, it was Zaire, now the Democratic Republic of Congo. Came to Canada at 5, and then when I was 18, moved to China, and 33 now. So yeah, it's actually almost been in China longer than I've been in Canada, which gives me weird feelings about which one then. Am I Canadian, or because I wasn't born there and have almost been there less than I've been here? So
when you also made that decision, I guess, to go to China at age 18, did you know any Chinese at that time, or what was it
oh,
like?
no, I didn't even know ni hao. I showed up knowing nothing, completely unprepared, but I just wanted to have an adventure, and China just seemed like such a different place from Canada, and so it seemed like a good choice to experience something new, see the world, and yeah.
And how was moving to China without knowing the local language 15 years ago?
It was awesome. It was weird and funny and confusing. I remember my first meal, or my second meal, but my first meal by myself, I had no way to order, and the menu was entirely in Chinese. So I just did a point randomly because I needed something, and I got a Heineken and a bowl of dried squid.
That's an experience if I've ever heard of one.
And listen, and then you started your career as an entrepreneur. Tell us about how you started your entrepreneurship career.
That I think began way before I came to China. I think I had that bug in me even as a kid. When I was, I think, 12 years old, my mom taught me how to crochet, a kind of knitting, and I was making hats and bracelets, and would be hustling them outside of anywhere people were. And then I learned Fruity Loops, how to make music, and then I was burning CDs and trying to sell my music. And then I found eBay, and I would buy random stuff in bulk, and I was a street hustler you see outside of the fair, but at my junior high, just always slanging something. So it kind of came naturally. As I was here, I worked for a year as an English teacher, and then I got a job at a bar. And as I just was involved in almost anything I was doing, I'm always being creative and thinking of ideas and things, and having that kind of fanaticism. It's hard to work with other people because generally they're trying to run a business and they can't handle all of my ridiculous ideas. And so it just kind of naturally, I had to stop working for other people and work for myself because I needed a space to be creative.
And then obviously you've found yourself in this world of extended reality now. Can you describe the process of, okay, you've gone English teacher, we've gone to bar, we've gone to work for yourself. So how did you fall in, to this world of VR and AR?
Yeah. Okay. So after working at a bar, then I decided another business. I opened a small, a private English school, and that was really not time consuming. And so I had kind of time, and I made a little bit of money. And so then I took that, and I decided I wanted to kind of go back to actually what I went to university for and make games. So I founded a small video game company with a good Chinese friend of mine, and we were working on a mobile game. And 6 months into that, the DK1 Kickstarter units began shipping, and I saw Cymatic Bruce, one of the original VR evangelists, his first impression videos, and it blew my mind. He just put the headset on, and he was looking around something there, and it was the whole concept of being in a virtual space was amazing. And it probably compounded with the fact that I was working on mobile, which is the farthest thing from immersion, and I just saw such a drastic difference, and I was this is amazing. This is going to be the future. This is going to be so huge, and if I jump into it, I know there'll be so much opportunity and so much that can be done. And so I just knew that I wanted to be there from the beginning. Well, not from the beginning, I'm 50 years late for that, but from this new beginning. And I called my partner over, and I showed him, And he agreed with me like instantly. There was no debate about it. And from that day, we never touched our game again. And we decided like we're going into VR. And the first thing we did was see what else was happening. Like, where is the community at? What are people doing? And so he searched through Baidu and kind of online on the Chinese Reddits and things. And there was no community. Like, there was really no solid group of VR fans and creators. And so we realized like, okay, well, that's what we're going to do. And so we rushed, worked super fast. We were like super urgent because we were like, this is amazing. We can found the community, but somebody's going to beat us to it, which we're kind of, I think that was kind of wrong because we didn't have any competitors or anything for like a half a year. But we started this forum and chat groups, kind of like our Oculus, Reddit Oculus back in the day. And we started kind of connecting with the community. And I guess that was kind of the beginning of bridging, because then everything was from outside of China. There were no Chinese VR companies or content or anything. So much of it was just finding news and sharing it in China, like connecting people with Oculus Share and like getting like all of that stuff, helping to bring it into China so that people could experience VR.
Wow.
And one of the things that we discussed during the previous meeting that we had was that obviously all those companies that wanted to get into China were pretty aware of all the problems that they were about to face. First of all, obviously the localization, but there's also the problem of IP protection. There's the problem of being compliant to the government rules and so on. And you created a business around helping those companies. Is it correct?
Yeah. So it's just like you said, everybody who's wanting to get involved, they're just hit with like 1,000 questions, and that are so, I guess, simple things for somebody who's on the field here and speaks the language are almost like impossible for people in the West. So it just, there was a need, and I fit the profile of helping to fill that need.
And can you drill down a little bit into the IP protection story that you told us? I mean, that's super interesting, because a lot of companies don't want to go to China because they're aware that they could get copied in some way with technology, with products, with IP, with games, and so on. And you're helping those companies to protect their IP.
Yeah. So that is something that I feel like strongly about, that IP protection is like something that the industry needs drastically. And I think it's why we've seen recently strong hardware companies coming out of China, and we haven't seen many strong content and software companies coming out of China, because the IPs are, because software is so much easier to kind of pirate. And it's not that things would be pirated in China, but it's the fact that non-Chinese things are so easy to pirate. So for example, if you're a Chinese company and you want to make a piece of content, let's say you make a normal video game and you want to charge $10 for it, or $20 or $50, you're competing with every AAA game from the West that's free. And so it basically makes it impossible. Like, there's no way the quality of your game is going to be worse than Western games, and the standard of cost for games is free because everything's pirated. And so that needs to change in order for a market to actually exist and to be healthy here. And it's begun changing with, I think, non-VR content, like these big brands like Blizzard and Activision, like Call of Duty and Warcraft, all these games, they really work with China and do those things to protect their IP and kind of try to push those. But VR is on such a small scale that it doesn't happen at all. So yeah, I thought this is a huge need. The Chinese market needs it. Western devs need it if they're ever going to be successful here. And so I felt really strongly that I want to do it. But I was also like, I thought it was going to be a big ordeal. I got a lawyer on retainer. I was like prepared to be hated. I was like, I'm going to go to legal war. Like I was prepared to battle pirates. And it was super anticlimactic. Like not disappointingly, because it's good, but it was like, I remember the first time it happened, we found out that the Wizards, a game we represented, that was being pirated, and we contacted them and we're like, please don't do that. We represent this game. And they were like, okay, sorry. And I was like,
And that was it.
yeah, that was it. And they took the game down. And it
Wow.
was like a repeat of that in almost every case. Like the hardest battle we ever had in total was, I think it took us 5 days. And it was this was a weird one. They were actually selling one of the games on Taobao, like the Chinese, like eBay, Amazon. And so you would pay like 50 cents to get like a pirated copy of it. And so we contacted them and we're like, we represent this game. And they're like, no, you don't. And we're like, no, we really do. And they're like, we'll prove it. And then we sent some documents and they were like, well, do you have this document? And then we got that document. And then they were like, okay.
So would you say then, I guess it's not really like a case of the fact that, what's the right word for it? But it's not really the case that when something gets pirated there, that it's more about being able to enforce it, right? So it's about being able to actually know where to look, like, because I guess as a Western dev, when you're looking at your software and releasing in these markets, you've got to be aware of all of the different locations and stores, and most of it's in a different language. Most of it's in a completely different way of navigating to it than most people are used to as well, right?
Yeah. Well, it's like, I think some people misunderstand China as like a pirate haven where it's like a free for all and there's like some sort of government protection or something for it, which is not. Like international copyright law and everything, China's a signature on all of it. But it's, again, the same as in Canada or America. Your copyright, you have to like fight for your copyright. Like you get a copyright strike on a YouTube video and it's from somebody who owns that copyright. Like the FBI doesn't go on their own and try to figure out what's happening. It's like people figure it out, and once they see someone doing it, then they can involve legal forces, but nobody does it for you. And China's the same. And it's just the case of nobody knows how to even find them or contact them. Like, for example, have you guys checked 87870.com if your games are on there? Through their like thousands of games, and that entire website's in Chinese. Like, you don't even know if that's a real website, I said. And so, yeah, it's just it's impossible to enforce. And so they just do it freely because nobody steps in and calls them on it.
Oh, this is super interesting. And you also told me that the perception of the VR industry in China is very distorted due to misuse of the technology at the beginning of the hype boom that has been in China. Can you tell us a little bit more about the story? Because I found it super interesting.
Yeah. So China has a population that's super open to like trying new things and using new things. Like I can show you, I haven't used cash for anything this year. I just pop up my Alipay and I have this code that I just show to somebody. And it's like, that exists in the West. You have Apple Pay, but it's like nobody uses cash. Like I literally haven't touched cash this entire year. And it's the same technology that exists everywhere in the world, but China is just so open to jump on new things. And VR was the same, but it happened in like 2016, end of 2015. And that was when VR wasn't very good. And so there was like this huge rush of everybody to try it when it was, the headsets were DK1s, some DK2s, and these new Chinese headsets coming in that were kind of clones of the DK1, mostly 3DOF headsets, low resolution, terrible content. And because everybody's so open to trying new things, like almost everybody, it's hard to find somebody roughly in our generations or below who has not tried VR over that period. But it was horrible VR. And so they were like, okay, that like been there, done that. And so then the market had like a huge crash, and it's been an extremely slow climb back because there is like, as Palmer said, the poisoning the well, and it was like poisoned, like saturated with poison. And so it's been just slowly getting people to give it another chance now that there's great VR internationally and in China.
See, I find that quite interesting because I guess like part of the West actually experienced that itself. I think, I still speak to people today where I'm like, oh, have you tried VR before? And they go, yeah. I had it on like a Gear VR, or I tried Google Cardboard, or I tried this kind of stuff. I'm like, yeah, no, that's not VR. um, and I think though, what's interesting is, and if I'm understanding you right, is essentially we experienced a little bit of that here. But there, because everyone is so much more open to trying the technology and doing that, it was like times 10 like effect
Yeah.
compared to what we were experiencing here.
Yeah, it really was like everybody. And I think once it like becomes that many people, then there's like it becomes a perpetuating like belief. And so it like pretty much anybody, you ask anybody, what do you think of VR? And they're like, it's dizzying and there isn't any good content. And it's like, because everybody said that, then it just became like the standard. Like we as a society have kind of made this decision and we're like, close the book on it. We don't need to try again.
And you mentioned also a meeting when you went into this meeting with a enterprise guy, and basically everybody wanted to try this experience except this guy that said, I already tried this experience in VR. And even your best friend, you mentioned that you had to convince him harder to try VR again because he had this bad experience.
Well, let me clarify with the enterprise where I went to visit them, and I was specifically there to meet with this company to talk about doing a project for them. And I went to show them our demo, and she didn't say that she tried our demo. She said, "Oh, I've tried VR before." Like it was as if like I brought my phone out and I was like, "Hey, I got a video to show you." And it's like, "No, I've seen a phone before." And the whole concept was just, it was just VR as the thing VR. Like there was such a boom where everybody was doing projects and it didn't matter what it was. It was like just that buzzword. Like you have your expo space and it's like, well, I got a VR 5G cloud, whatever. And the content inside of it could be literally anything, but it's like that there's a check for VR. And there was no concept of like, how does this help us as a business? How does this help us increase value? But it was just, we're doing a VR because of VR is hot. And that's the thing that will either bring in interest from people, that will impress our boss, that we're up to date on technology trends or whatnot. But it had absolutely nothing to do with what actually was experienced through VR.
I was about to ask, and you mentioned also that there are a lot of LB experiences that were distributed around China that had a sort of a mismatch between the content and the haptic system. So most of the experiences that were distributed were just like generic 3D OF experience with a swiveling chair that was like bouncing all around, and
I
people
love
were
that
coming
idea.
out coming out completely dizzy from those kind of experiences. But the LB market in China is huge. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah. Well, first I should say every market in China is huge. So it's like when you talk about any number in general, they all sound really big. Like if somebody has 500,000 followers on an account, that's like, that doesn't mean anything. But it's like in the West, that's like probably if you have 500,000 followers in VR, you're going to be probably top 10 of the VR influencers in the entire industry. but it's like the top 3 all have over 5 million followers of VR influencers. But though, so going back to the LBEs though, it was huge business because everybody wanted to try VR and it was hot and it was something that everybody had to try. And so if you think you have anything that over 1 billion people all need to try, doesn't really matter what you're charging for them. That's a lot of money to make. But the content, they had these weird egg-shaped chairs. So it was like an egg where you sit kind of in the front of it, and then weird DK1 clones, because the DK1 was open sourced. So there was like dozens and dozens of companies making them. And the content, a lot of it would just be demos, or because back then there was hardly any even paid content. They'd be free demos, often from Oculus Share, the old Oculus website. And the demo would have nothing to do with the chair. Like I remember there's one demo where you're on like the swinging boat ride from the amusement park. So you're swinging in a boat that's like going like this, and the chair is just shaking randomly left and right. Like they would just, the way they would program it is the chair, they would start it to record, move the chair randomly, and that would just be save that recording to that content. And so it would be so random, and it got so disappointingly obsessive where it was all about, I guess there was no depth to it, or no like real meat to it. I remember when I went to the Guangzhou VR Hardware Expo, which is a huge expo, like thousands of companies, like 5 different atriums. And I was super excited because I was like, this is huge opportunity. All of these companies making VR hardware and different things, and they don't have content. So I was like, and they need content. So I went around from company to company, like, who makes your content? I can make stuff 100 times better. And nobody cared. Nobody cared at all. And like the worst one I saw that like made me angry is they had this amazing machine that was a 6-DoF chair. Like the chair would go forwards, backwards, rotate, and behind the machine could actually rotate. So like if this is you sitting on the chair, you could go a full 360s on the chair. And when I tried the content on it, it was a roller coaster that wasn't connected to the chair. Like at the moment when I do the full flip upside down, my coaster is going straight. There aren't even any turns. And all of a sudden my body just leaves the coaster and goes upside down. So I'm hanging upside down and I look and the coaster is like down below me, which is insane. That machine would cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, and that content wasn't worth thousands of dollars.
And what are you doing right now to change the situation? Is the VR scene changing, or is the well still poisoned and there's no return like the Atari 2600 era?
The market crash, I guess rightfully so. These companies weren't doing anything of value. I think they were almost tricking people by showcasing these amazing equipment with a beautiful Photoshop image of somebody in outer space, and then this garbage like Unity asset swap like embarrassments. And so I'm glad those companies ran out of business. But the results was many years where VR was like a dirty word. And like with the boom, investment was insane. Everybody was investing into VR. It was like just something you kind of had to do if you were like up with the times. And then they all lost money. And it was like VR companies would avoid like using the word VR because it like everybody had fresh wounds about failed business experiences. But it knocked everything down to like kind of reality, and then just really forced things to kind of grow in reality and at a healthy pace.
Is the market healing right now?
Yeah, this year has been wonderful, and it began last year, I felt, in 2020. where actually people, like the anti-VR sentiment from 2016, it started to end last year, and now VR is cool again. And so people accept that VR is not what they thought. Like I said, it took so many years to get people to try again, but now that enough people have been trying again, and the amount of improvements in things, Pico's 6-Stuff headset is amazing. There's so many great new companies out there, and on content and business and everything, there's actual really quality VR companies. And now they're not just doing things in the name of VR, but actually to bring value to the industry and to create meaningful experiences to people. And that has begun to change the whole tide of opinion. And this year it's really noticeable that, like, yeah, now VR is, people realize like that wasn't VR, that was crappy VR.
So I guess we could play a bit of a game here where we could go through, I guess, your worst ever piece of hardware, I guess, something like that, or like I guess like failed or flopped piece of HMD or something like that, and then also controversially go to the other side where let's see something that is actually amazing, like what is something that just, I guess, there's hardware and stuff that we're not even aware of sitting over here right now as well. For those listening, Nikk just brought up, what is that?
Oh my God, what is that?
How do you describe this? Yeah,
it's a space controller. It's oh my God, it's a triangle. It's a pyramid shaped
It looks like an Oculus Quest controller, but
from another dimension.
From another dimension.
It's been stretched out. It's a stretched out Oculus Quest controller.
Oh, it looks like it's kind of melted, like if an Oculus controller put it in the microwave and it's sagged down.
Yeah, exactly. So it's for the people that are listening on audio only, the controller is basically shaped like a triangle, and the circle that's usually is at the bottom, like the controller of the Oculus Rift, is flat at the bottom and has one side connected to the bottom of where the hand is. So it's basically like a triangle, and it's super weird. What is that?
I'm just trying to think what mental image people have in their heads after listening to your explanation.
I don't know.
I'd love to see somebody draw it from that. But it's probably not going to look any less weird. Also, did you notice the buttons and controller on the top?
There's no thumbstick, right? It's like
a Steam pad. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So this is the Hyperreal. I'll show you the headset too.
Looks like a Rift S.
Yeah. So it basically is, imagine a lower quality Rift S. And this was a super disappointing. The hardware wasn't terrible. It was definitely worse than the Rift S, but it wasn't terrible. What really was disappointing about it, though, is they kind of came out with a bang. They were really looking to bring on devs and kind of bring international devs into China. And so they did big sums of payments and advances and stuff for devs and for porting, like in the tens of thousands of dollars US. And then for whatever reason, they're struggling, and they just pivoted into robotics and decided to ghost all the devs who they still owned.
Oh wow. And this is one of the stories, but you have many headsets over there.
Yeah, I got a lot of weird headsets. But yeah, I think that's just the worst one, I think, because it's just straight up a dev being promised money, doing the work, their content launching on the headset, and then just not paying them and ghosting them. And it wouldn't be that much better if the company went bankrupt and they didn't pay them. But the fact that the company was still doing business and still alive and just didn't pay people. But hold on. I made myself sad. Let's look at something cool to cheer us all up. So this is not a sad story. I don't know if you guys know this one.
I've never
No.
seen this
What is that?
Ready
It's
Player One type
like a
headset.
pair of goggles that are VR goggles, though. It's like a
Yeah,
where,
like
I definitely recommend you watch this episode.
yeah. Go on YouTube and watch it if you're listening on podcast or Spotify. And what is that?
So
this is my
It's a
phone.
mobile phone. Okay. Does it
Yeah.
connect to 5G?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
So the reason why this headset, or also I could explain this headset to being a VR headset that, unlike every other VR headset, doesn't look like a 90s like Lawnmower Man VR headset.
Mhm.
I feel like there's been so many advances in, like, the Quest is an amazing piece of hardware, but it looks almost identical to like the iPhone VR headset from the 90s. Um, yeah, so I think I love this one because they've actually taken some steps to make it look nicer.
How does
And
that
the way
one
they did it, yeah.
work? Like, yeah. That's what I was gonna ask. Like, how does it work? Like, what is it like? What is its kind of specs? Why would you choose this one? I guess at the moment.
I choose this one because it's small and it just runs off my phone. So the reason, but for people watching, it's not a Quest where you put your phone in. It's its own headset, but it's connected by a wire to your phone, which is why they can make it so small.
And you're
But
wearing like
actually,
a
like,
pair of goggles, right? It's not that doesn't
yeah,
have a strap. It's a proper pair of
no.
goggles. Yeah.
Well, it's like glasses. It's like big, thick Ray-Bans
Yeah.
kind of thing. But I wear it like if I'm going out to a conference or something and I want to bring our video content to show people and I don't have a backpack. This is like the only headset I know of. Like I pop it on my head like a cool guy with his Ray-Bans on his head, and like that I can take it with me and it's anywhere and it just plugs right into my phone. The stats, if you guys want to know more about this headset, search the Scarred Ghost, Tony Vitale. He has an amazing video that I made with him where we go super, super in depth. But yeah, I'll see if you guys can guess the company that it's made by.
There we go.
FXG.
With
Oh, no.
Huawei.
Huawei.
Those are
Okay.
stickers.
The
Yeah, those are
FXG ones are
stickers.
your
We just-
stickers, and then
Sorry.
it's a
Yeah.
Huawei headset.
Those are our stickers, and so it's a Huawei. I'll tell you a couple cool things about this headset. For your glasses wearers, it's actually has a fully adjustable. I don't know what you call this.
Oh wow! So
Magnetic.
you can change the optics in order to adjust them to your eyes.
Yeah, there we go.
Wow!
So that's very cool. And what's
Without
even
any insert.
cooler, yeah, without any insert. But what I think is even cooler is, I don't know if you guys have heard, but Huawei is releasing a 6-DoF headset.
Oh no!
Okay, well, actually, which is crazy. Yep, go ahead.
World premiere.
Me and Tony did the world premiere on his
All right.
on his blog, but this is a podcast premiere. I think this is the second time that this has been shown outside of China. But so on my 3-DoF headset, there used to be a little tab up here that I pulled off, and there's like a mini USB plug-in on the top of my 3-DoF goggles headset.
Yeah.
And so the 6-DoF, oh, that's backwards.
Oh,
is
wow.
right here.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's got some sensors on it. It's got some wide angle lenses on either side. And you take that
That's clever. That's
and you
really
plug
clever.
it right into your 3-DoF headset. So it's just a additional purchase. And now your 3-DoF headset has switched into 6-DoF.
And does it work also with Cloud XR? It's connected via 5G or only works via stuff that is running locally? Can you do cloud rendered XR?
Yes. We do streaming and video streaming. I haven't tried it with like game streaming,
Pixel pushing.
but it should
okay.
be possible. Yeah, definitely should be possible.
Super interesting.
And another cool thing about this headset.
Oh,
The controllers connect
the
together?
controllers interlock,
Yeah,
so they need less space, right?
yeah,
Perfect. And this is for the 6DOF add-on, right?
yeah, yeah. And then they all just kind of sit like this together
Oh,
in a nice
wow.
compact set on your desk kind of thing.
That's super cool.
Awesome.
Really, really cool. And this is available, or is when it's
No.
going to be launched?
Unannounced.
Unannounced.
Would you
Okay.
say that this is like a particular challenge of I guess some of the hardware that is on the Chinese market, where I guess there is a lot of cool things, but how much, like if you were to give like a percentage, how much of the stuff that you see in the Chinese market do you think will ever actually make it out to the Western markets?
Eventually, I think almost all of it. I think now, just the market is still too small. But I think what we saw with like DJI, the drone manufacturer, I think that is a really good example of things to come. We noticed like in over the past like 30 years of China becoming like kind of a cheaper product manufacturer, with kind of phones like Xiaomi and things. And then you saw it kind of fighting hard to catch up. And so you see Huawei has like also super expensive mobile phones and things that are getting to the level of a iPhone, and I think passing Samsung in phones sold. I'm not sure, but it's still kind of a neck and neck. But then you see new industries like drones, and there's like no doubt about it, I think, in anybody's mind. Nobody's ever argued this with me, but DJI is like by far superior to any other drone manufacturer. I don't know. Do you guys disagree?
No,
I agree with that.
we totally agree with that. But do you think is that because they started before of anybody else, or because they just invested so much money in research? What's the secret sauce for their success?
I think it's a lot of kind of factors that are similar to why Huawei was able to make a phone brand that can compete with everybody else. I think like it's the speed of the industry here, like working in Shenzhen as a manufacturer versus working in America. Like you're going to have to your phones are manufactured in Shenzhen. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like working on the other side of the world from your factory versus working like down the road from your factory, which is huge for speed of turnover on things.
So you think that's the speed to prototyping all the different kind of iterations is way faster because of the supply chain is so short?
Yep. The supply chain is so short. Chinese people work like crazy. Like there's something Jack Ma said, which I personally hate, but he introduced something called 996, which is 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., 6 days a week. And it's like this concept of working like it's like the opposite of the 4-day weekend. And I think it's going to cause a lot of problems for society in the future. People are going to burn out and crash. But in the short term, it's resulted in like crazy things being able to be done by these new companies. And
So this is
so
for
all of
one
this
individual working from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. for 6 days a week.
Yeah, well, Jack Ma, the founder of Alibaba, and it's like that concept. And so now it's like companies will adopt that. Like we're doing 996, like that's how we're going to be successful. So it's just insane work ethic, crazy turnaround times to prototyping, the access for anything to be able to like it's like, let's say randomly, if you wanted to, like there's a phone. Oh, I should grab that. That's cool. By the way, 你能帮我去拿那个360度的那个手机？有一个手机拍全景。有可能在这里还是那边。Okay.
Nick, your Chinese is exceptional. It's very impressive.
I was asking to somebody to grab a 360 camera phone. So it's a phone, but it also has a 360 camera on it. Something like that is really crazy, and I think would take a lot of work for somebody outside of China to do. You can just throw together in China. Like there's the whole supply chain. It's like, well, I want to try and add a 360 camera to my phone. And instead of having to like as an Italian phone maker, that experiment would probably take you a month. But I'm sure somebody in Shenzhen could get a rushed prototype of that together in a day, would be my guess.
Oh,
And here it
wow.
is.
We doubled. So the phone has two massive fisheye cameras, one in the front and one in the back.
I
Yeah.
would not want to open up the selfie by accident on this phone.
Yeah, let's see. So hold on. Let me see.
It's
Oh,
gonna be
VR photo.
it's gonna be very Beastie Boys.
Yeah. Fill in with
Okay.
the stuff there.
Oh, look.
So
Yeah, so
here
basically you get the full fisheye. Yeah.
it's
Super
well,
interesting.
it's a full, not just a fisheye, it's your full
360.
360 image.
Yeah.
So it's the double fisheye. So here is the image I just took.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Awesome.
And it works with video and photos.
Yeah. The quality is pretty crappy, but yes. Yes, it does.
So Nikk, I have a question for you then, which is we're speaking about the Chinese market and all these amazing innovations and also these challenges. So I'm keen to get, I guess, what are your actual like tips and advice to developers and manufacturers, or anyone in the XR space who's outside of China that may want to look at exploring that market? What would you say to them?
Welcome. First thing, welcome. It's a great idea. There's so much opportunity here. So definitely you're probably on a good thought. And it's still, I think there's a lot of new opportunity. So it's something where it's not saturated. So it's one of those kind of things where you also have opportunity to kind of be a early adopter in some cases, or not you're not going to be first. That would have been maybe like me to show up like 15 years ago, but yet it's still, people are waking up to it, but there's still a very strong lack of kind of people who are really taking an active approach. And so then if you want to get involved and do things, I would say take it slow, and be prepared to be out of your, what's the word?
Comfort
Out of
zone?
your out of your comfort zone. You're going to be off your game. Like it's just, it's not like anything you've done before. eBay and Amazon and Uber all failed in China. And I think the reason why they failed in China is because of their hubris. Like they thought that they knew everything and they'd succeeded all over the world in every other market. And so they were ready to do it in China. And you just need to be completely, I think, prepared for everything to not make sense and to be completely different from what you're used to. And I guess saying that, I think it's important to have people or to connect with people. Like if you just try to run it on your own, you're going to really struggle. I know of companies now who have big Chinese goals who are actually Western VR devs who are setting up offices in China now, and they're going to be bringing on Chinese staff. And I think that is the key, to really have somebody who's knows the market and who understands the market, who you can work with. And there's lots of ways to do that. You can research, you can read, you can watch this podcast with me, or you can find partners. Like my company, we work with other people. There's Chinese companies that also do similar things. And yeah, so I think it would be ideal to find a guide. If you can't find a guide, just be prepared to be like schooled easily. I think there's like I don't know how to say it, but there's enough sharks in this market that if you show up like naive without knowing what's going on, like somebody's going to jump on that in a second. Yeah. And so if you're really going to go alone, you got to be careful, I guess. That sounds bad. I don't mean that it's like a mean place, but I think just because the market is so competitive and everything here, because it's moving so fast and there are so many companies in any space. So there's always those certain companies that will take advantage of things. And on that, it's not always like, you might not be like lied to and like have your kidney cut out. Like that's not what's generally going to happen, but it's easy for I guess naive and overly trusting Westerners to get like swept away in promises of grandeur. Like for example, let's say a company, let's say you meet somebody at a conference and he knows someone at Pico and he's heard that Pico is paying X amount of money for content. He wouldn't tell you, I know somebody there and I've heard they're paying money for content. He would tell you, I have that connection and can get you X dollars. Like there's a lot of things will be, if something is a possibility, it will be stated as a fact, which to some people who I think it depends on the market, but I think that wouldn't happen in a lot of places. And so people just overly trust it. And they're like, wow, this guy said that I can make X on there, and they'll get super excited and they'll go into it full force and they'll say, all I need to do is do a port. And he said that the money will come once the port is finished. And they do all of these things when it turned out the guy they were talking to wasn't even working at this company. And so it's really important that you don't take anything at face value and you really double check and make sure. And like for the Pico example, that you're working with Pico Studio, which is actually their arm that works with devs and is super great. And they're awesome guys and they're really good to work with. And so if you really kind of make sure and double check and you're cautious and you don't move too quickly and make sure you always get a contract, ideally get paid before you do any work. But in some cases, like with Huawei, which is a huge company, they don't pay any devs until after the port. But yeah, it's be careful, because I know of so many companies like the Hyperreal example that got excited and wanted to support a company who seemed passionate and like they were doing good things, and in the end didn't turn out well.
Wow. Thanks for the advice. And in the sense of, I mean, the people that would like to, for example, bring their own content to local headsets, what's the first step? Get in touch with you, get in touch with the headset manufacturer, what they should do?
Yeah, I guess this, I'll put the ad for me right here. If anybody wants to get into the Chinese industry and they're looking at getting on different platforms, definitely you can try and go right to the headset manufacturers. It's probably gonna be challenging. Like, who do you contact at Huawei out of their 300,000 employees to get on their VR headset? So yeah, my company, we do that. We love to do that. We don't take any money usually upfront, and then we just get paid if we can get you on headsets. So it's pretty risk-free. You can just email us, info @fxgvr.com, and just send us an email with your game, and we'll share it around to different headsets, different platforms, and talk with you, see how much money you need to make to get a port, and we try and get that port for you. If you need more help, like we talked about piracy protection and consultancy and all of the other confusing things of China, I'm a relatively nice guy and my team is relatively friendly, and we can help.
Relatively friendly.
Relatively friendly.
You can't be too friendly. That's
That's the rule.
I figured we could just end then, I guess, on like just the future then, I guess. Like I'd love to hear like what are your, what's your view on the future of, I guess, the Chinese market, but also the Western markets, and I guess how they come together. And I guess, what are some of your predictions, I guess?
Cool. Well, I guess on the hardware side, as I predicted, the future will be big. And when we started talking about DJI, is because that's a new industry and the speed of China. I think once the industry hits a certain size internationally, then all of these headsets are going to be going international. And then we're going to see crazy innovations and new like explosions in things that we've never seen before. So I think there's going to be serious competition from these Chinese headsets. And I think the stage after that, maybe 5 to 10 years from now, is we're going to also see great content from China. And that's already happening, actually. There's a VR game that I think you've all played probably. Do you know Contractors?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
you probably don't know, but that's a VR studio. That's a Chinese VR studio, sorry.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, did you guys know that?
Yeah,
No,
yeah. I knew that
I didn't know that.
Contractors. Yeah, I knew that the studio was from China, but I know that they
Okay.
recently been. Did they join the Oculus Studio as well?
I didn't know about that, but possibly
Maybe.
they're doing amazing
Possibly.
things
Sorry.
and they're going big. And I think that's kind of we're going to see more of that. And I think as the Chinese market grows, like the privacy protection, I think will be only stronger. With film, China didn't have a film industry 15 years ago, like a local film industry, hardly. It was like a fraction of the West. And then they went big on copyright protection. And now China has the biggest film industry in the world. And so I think that the same thing's going to happen in VR, because the government's also, we didn't even get into that, but the government investment in VR is insane. So there's like this huge push from so many sides.
Just to for the sake of clarity, the developers didn't join Oculus Studio. The game is available on the Oculus Store. We were talking about Contractors, and I mean, you were talking about the grant from the government. There is a grant for VR and 5G in China that is going on right now, so you can get money from the government if you're operating in this kind of field of technology, right?
There's like millions of grants in China for all kinds of things. It's super complicated, but it's definitely there, and there's money. Like my company this year, I think should get around $150,000 in R&D rebates, which it's like something like 20% of the money we spend on research, we get actually back just in cash. So that's one thing, and they have specific grants for 5G, specific grants for VR. We have like 300 square meters for like $2,000 a month that's subsidized by the government. So there's this total environment where the government is investing super heavily into startups and specifically into like long-term startups. So they're really focused on kind of putting down the groundwork so that the companies that are going to be building the technology of the future have like fertile soil to grow in.
And do you foresee any challenge with that? Like, in particular, I can take an example of Facebook and Oculus, where sales of actual Oculus headsets are banned in Germany, because of privacy concerns of using that particular hardware and things like that. Do you ever see, I guess, any challenges using that with hardware that emerges from the Chinese markets as well?
They're banned in Germany. Oculus?
Yeah. I believe so. I'll double check with our producer if it's still in place.
Yeah, that's amazing. But yeah, definitely. For example, Huawei just is in a really rough place now with America and all kinds of countries around the world. And so if those politics continue, I think a lot of Chinese headset makers will have challenges internationally. Which I guess I'm not a politician or a political person in any way. And I just try to kind of build my thing and do what I'm doing. And I hope, which I think I'm naive and I doubt, but I hope that VR can be something that connects us internationally. Like I've met so many people all over the world inside of VR and in these VR experiences. And for me, living in China has been like, I kind of used to feel sometimes cut out from the outside world, but with social VR recently, I'm not. Like I'm connected to what's happening in America and Europe and Australia and Japan. And I wish for a future where VR can do that with China. that it can be something that really kind of connects and opens up the world to China, and that opens up China to the world, where people will be able to learn more about China, experience China more through VR video. We'll be able to like kind of get on the ground and hands on, and really that people can meet and interact. I'm worried that business and whatever will complicate that, but I have a dream that VR could be that tech that will just kind of bring the world a little bit closer together.
No, that's
Fantastic.
awesome.
I think that this is a great quote to close this episode of Field of View. Thank you so much, Nikk, for being with us. It's been a true pleasure and very, very interesting. I can't wait to get the borders to open up, to come there in China and visit you and your studio and see all the crazy thing that we talked about in first person. I've never been there, and I would love to see it.
Oh,
So
please do. Hangzhou,
thanks.
China, any of you guys, yeah, there's lots to see, and if you're interested in China, then just come on over.
Brilliant. Daniel, would you like to remind our viewers where they can see our podcast, and they can listen to our podcast, and where they can find us?
Certainly. So yeah, remember you can find us on Spotify, Apple Music, Google Podcasts, all of the usual places that you would normally listen to a podcast. You can also find it on kind of YouTube as well if you want to watch us and see our pretty faces, and also see obviously the hardware that kind of Nikk was showcasing in this one as well. As always, you can head to the Field of View landing page, which is linked in all of our content here, to actually subscribe and ask any questions for any upcoming podcasts as well.
And thumbs up if you like this video, please.
Yeah. Okay, fantastic.
Thank you so much for being with us. Thanks, Nikk. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you guys for having us. Cheers.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Through accessible insights, a solid network of support, and recognizing truly outstanding achievements near or far. Big or small, we're in this together. AIXR.